Welcome to In the News for July the 15th, 2022. I am Brett Burney from appsandlaw.com.
And this is Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD. Hey, Brett.
Welcome back, Jeff. I mean, I'm saying that. I mean, we had 1 week where we were off, and then last week, man, we've still got people that are reaching out to us for our special travel tips edition. Or I forget what we called it. Was it a treasure trove of travel tips and trinkets, right? I think that was it.
Pretty good tongue twister there, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. But people have been loving that as we loved it. It was just great. It was a whole hour just of all the tips and apps and gadgets and stuff that I know you and I have been using as we've been doing some various travel over the summer. And so I'm saying welcome back just because I know people have been asking us about that, and we want to get back into our regular schedule. And both of us, you and I, have been traveling. But one of the things I know, I think we talked about this. You talked about this last week on our travel tips edition, was this MagSafe Battery Pack. And you had a fantastic review, I thought, very thorough, Jeff, about this. What was it, this past week? July 11th is when you reviewed this on iPhone JD. Yeah.
When we recorded our travel tips show, I had been using it for a while, but I had not actually traveled with it. And then shortly after we recorded that show, my wife and I went to Italy for a vacation. And as I put in my review, it was unfortunate because we had to cut our trip short because my son got COVID in summer camp and got sent home. So that part of the trip, But the MagSafe Battery Pack was a champ. I mean, this thing, I was surprised how much I loved it. And it was one of those things, like sometimes in life you buy something and you don't use it too much. And then other times you buy something and you're like, oh my goodness, I could have been using this for a long time. And this is the category of the MagSafe Battery Pack. When I was, on traveling, in away, out all day, we'd leave early in the morning, we'd go walk around, Milan and Bologna and sightseeing, and you're using your iPhone a lot and you're taking video and pictures and using GPS. You are really pushing it to the limit. And you know what? I was running out of power by the early afternoon. It's like 3 o'clock and I don't have much power left, but I just took this MagSafe Battery Pack, slapped it on the back. It attaches with a magnet automatically, so it lines itself up correctly. And then suddenly I am more than good. I mean, it provides another, 60%, I think, additional power for my iPhone 13 Pro. It more than got me to the end of the day. I could extensively use it. But the key was that it was just so light and small, because all day long I had this thing just in my right pocket. So it was there when I needed it. And I didn't notice it. I mean, I really did not notice it. Other batteries that I've carried around in the past, you've sort of felt them because they have some, they're a little heavy and a little awkward. But this one is so thin and small. Yeah. So, and I mean, obviously, if you've got a purse or a travel bag or something, well, then of course you're not going to notice it. But even just sticking it in your pocket, the only time I noticed it is when I actually attached it to the iPhone. And would put that on my shirt pocket. Well, then I would notice that the iPhone in my shirt pocket was a little bit more heavy. But that's fine. I mean, it wasn't a problem. It wasn't like causing any issues. It's just that I noticed it, but it was doing its job. It was recharging the phone. So I was just, if you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be, whether it's work travel or fun travel, and you're just going to be away from a power source. I mean, I think of the days when I would be like in an all day long CLE to get, continuing legal education. And sometimes you're lucky enough to sit close to a plug, but sometimes you're not, with this thing, I'm fine. I mean, I'm gonna have tons of power on my iPhone. So so it's great. And the other thing is that the thing that had deterred me originally, Brett, was the price. And I know that's why you got a competitor that was cheaper, and $100 is a lot. It's still on sale on Amazon for $80. And in fact, this sale has gone on for so long. In fact, open it right now. Let's see if it's still on sale. It's going up $5. So now it's at 87 or $7. But it's been on sale long enough that it almost makes me wonder if maybe Apple's trying to clear out stock, because maybe they're going to come out with a new version. This is just speculation. I haven't even seen rumors of this.
I know.
And the only thing I could imagine them doing is switching the Lightning port on it to a USB-C port. And that would really only make sense if the next version of the iPhone has USB-C, which has been rumored. But as I pointed out in my review, it wouldn't even matter if you could use the Lightning version of this with an iPhone with USB-C, because they just slap to the back. And in fact, in some ways that would be even more versatile, because that way you could charge your hypothetical new iPhone that has USB-C. You could use the USB-C cord to charge it, and it would also charge the MagSafe battery in the back. Or you could choose Lightning onto the battery pack, and it would also charge the phone. So, I would see no reason not to buy this now and take advantage of the sale. So I could not be more glowing in my review. Just fantastic.
Well, so you bring up a good point. You got a good picture here where you're showing like the bottom of the phone, of your phone, and the bottom of the MagSafe battery pack on the phone. And both of them, wait, are they both using Lightning to charge? Lightning.
Okay. So you can plug into either one.
Okay. So in other words, I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't have to take two cords. In other words, if I have a Lightning cable that I'm carrying with me to charge my phone, that same Lightning cable could also be used to charge the MagSafe battery pack or to recharge it, to put that in. I mean, I'm just, both you and I I'm always balancing out, like, okay,
you want to minimize the carry.
Right. What kind of cords do I need? I want to make sure I have all the cords. I mean, I've got I've got a whole packing cube now that is just, full of all the cords, because everybody knows, well, that Brett guy, like, if you need a cord or an adapter, he's probably the one that has it, because I just carry them all with me all the time.
Right.
But if I can cut down on some of that, and I know a lot of people have been complaining about this, that the iPhone does need to go to USB-C. Now you and I have the larger iPad Pro, which is all USB-C, right? So it's like I have to have a USB-C anyway to charge that, but I have to have Lightning to charge my phone. And anyway, I'm afraid we're always going to have some kind of in the dark, like one step behind on some of this technology, because everything changes all the way so fast. But you just did a great job on your review, and I'm so glad you talked about it a little bit more here, because we've talked about this several times, and even David Sparks had the same idea. I think he was at Disneyland for the day, right? And it's like just having that assurance that you've got this little extra charge on there. And I think you were talking about in here that there's some safety factors in here, like it only charges the iPhone up to 90% or something like that, right?
It won't go all the way, because that puts extra strain on your battery, but you can tell it you want to go all the way if you need to. And pause right there, Brett. The picture that you're showing, this is one, and again, this is because Apple makes everything, but what third-party batteries don't offer, and this one does, is as soon as you attach it to the phone, you see this wonderful graphic on the screen, which, because of like this nice use of circles and percentages, you can instantly see, here's how much power my iPhone has, and here's how much power my MagSafe battery pack has. So just at a glance, you can see, my iPhone is really low, but my MagSafe's got lots of power, so I'm in good shape. Or, my iPhone's really low and my MagSafe is also low because I forgot to recharge it. And then it's so great. It's so, as opposed to third-party batteries, which typically have 3 or 4 lights, and you have to sort of guess from the light. I guess it's between 50 and 75 or whatever.
I'm going to take advantage of this, because we talked about this last week, so folks can go back and listen to that. But the cheaper alternative that I got, it does have a circle that comes up, but it doesn't give me that extra information, Jeff. Exactly what you're saying. Like, it just has that beautiful little bong, like it tells me that it's charging, but it doesn't give me the information on there. And I talked about this last week. I have to push a button. I have to make sure that it's actually charged. Anyway, it's just too much. And to me, I don't want to have to mess with that inconvenience on there. All right, from the MagSafe to the AirTag. Let's get back to some of the things that you were posting in today in the post. And you started off with this great little story. I think it's great. We've talked about this before too. Some of the accessories that you can use with the AirTag. And you had a link here to Macworld.
Yeah, the AirTag's been out for how long now, Brett? A year and a half?
Yeah,
this
at least.
This is the best roundup I've seen to date ever.
Agreed.
Of all the accessories. Glenn Fleishman and whoever wrote this,
David Price.
David Price. They did a great job of going through all of the best ones that are out there.
You have one of these, right?
Yeah, I have the Belkin one, which is really cheap. You can get them for like $7 or $8. It's just a little plastic ring that fits around the AirTag.
Here it is.
And it puts a little the little thing at the end of it so that you can either attach a key ring or a strap. And it's great. In fact, some of the stories I linked to today are talking about with people traveling around the world and with so many flights being canceled. Heck, my wife was just telling me as I left for work today that she was reading about how in London, Heathrow Airport has been, they don't have enough employees. And so they're canceling flights left and right. It's a total mess. And people are, losing their luggage because the airlines don't know where it is. But if you have an AirTag on your luggage, then you can find it again. And sometimes when the airline says, "I don't know where it is," you can say, "I will tell you where it is. It's located right here," and then they'll actually find it for you.
Let me help you find my luggage.
but this Macworld article has all sorts of other things. I mean, different types of links, just types of holders, depending upon whether you want something like fancy for your keychain, like a leather chain,
the Hermes ring. Oh, the $350 for a key ring.
Which didn't you just tell me you wanted to buy that for me, Brett? Did I hear
one day?
You say,
that's my bucket list. One day, Jeff.
Get two of them. Get one for yourself too.
Good grief, man, that's crazy. No, I'm going to go with the $8. You've talked about the Belkin one before, and it just looks like it is basic,
simple and perfect. Yeah,
but I don't have the AirTags yet. I know you got them first. But just having that little dollop, carrying around, like I like to have something that I know that I can put it in, maybe, I don't know, to protect it a little bit, but also just to kind of help understand where it is. Speaking of our friend David Sparks, you linked to another story that he did also. This was the Nimalist AirTag wallet. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm glad you linked to him here.
Yeah, I still don't understand how an AirTag is not too thick to put in your back pocket in a wallet. Although I guess some people put a wallet like in a purse or a holder or a briefcase, something like that. Right. But if it's in your back, I mean, if you're going to do it, I mean, I'm looking at the picture he has that you're showing right now. I guess that's the best way to make it really slim for a wallet. But again, as I put in my post today, I haven't done this, and David's been doing it for months, and he's telling us it works. So I guess I defer to him. I guess it works. I can totally understand the advantage of having an AirTag in your wallet, because when you can't find it in your house, you can use Find My on your iPhone to find it. It's just like, in the old days, people might have something like one of those, things that you clap and it makes a noise. So it totally makes sense to me to have an AirTag on the wallet. I would love it if like Apple comes out with a second generation AirTag that's exactly half the thickness, and that I could see putting, and then I probably would put it in my wallet. So
it's better yet, David says, Apple will may build an AirTag technology into their own wallet, sans the bump.
There you go. That's what I need,
that wallet. Looks just so grotesque. I don't want to have that little bump in my pants, in my wallet. But anyway,
the Apple wallet would have like, the perfect leather and everything else, and it'd be twice as expensive as it should be, but it'd be so nice.
And I would be a sucker. I'd be a sucker for it. All right. Now we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. Well, maybe it's been a couple of weeks. We did the travel tips edition, but one of the things that we have been talking about since the summer, of course, was the announcements from WWDC. And one of the big things that you and I are anticipating is iOS 16 / iPadOS 16. And you had a great link, of course, to Frederico at Mac Stories here. He's been living with iPadOS 16 now. He said a month, right? Yeah, a month with iPadOS 16. And of course, always Frederico I look forward to his very in-depth reviews and things, his experiences, but it's looking pretty good so far, Jeff.
Yeah. And in fact, you just said something that I was going to start out by mentioning. For folks who don't remember, every year around September, when iOS is actually released, Federico has always done sort of a comprehensive deep dive into all the new features. So he is spending this summer preparing that novel. And so it was nice that he gave this 1 month in update. Now, of course, it's still the beta. In fact, the public beta only recently came out. It's been the developer beta for a while. So everything is subject to change, but it was nice to hear. And this isn't just a casual user is what I'm trying to say. This is someone who has already spent the last month really studying what is new. And and I just want to say one thing about each of them. For the iPad, what he focuses on is the new the stage manager feature, which to remind people, you need to have an M1 iPad. So if you've got a newer iPad Pro, it's going to work. Eventually all the iPads will be using M1s. But right now, if you have an older iPad, you're not going to have this feature. But if you do have a newer iPad with an M1 or in the future an M2, it will support this ability to have multiple screens. And I have heard Federico for a long time say he wants to have better multitasking on the iPad, but he hates the idea of having windows on top of windows on an iPad.
Overlapping
windows. And so when I started to read this review, I expected him to say, I've always hated it. And why did Apple do this? And to my surprise, he says, you know what? I'm eating my words. It actually works.
Yeah.
And he says the reason it works is because Apple didn't just take the way that overlapping windows work on a Mac or a PC and slap it on an iPad, because that would have been confusing. He said instead they have sort of simplified the process. I mean, you could be critical and say dumbing it down, but much like the iPad is inherently easier to use than a fiddly computer, the window management in this new Stage Manager is just easier to use and just makes more sense than the fiddliness on a computer. So you may not be able to precisely adjust every window to a pixel of the exact size, but you can hit all the major sizes, for example, and do so quickly. So it made me excited that he was so enthusiastic, because this was someone who went into the process with a lot of doubts.
I'm so tempted, Jeff, now that the public beta is out. I think I'm going to wait at least till maybe like beta number 2 or something. But my iPad is just like screaming at me like, hey, I really, really want you to try these new features. So I might have to fall for it. We'll see, Jeff. Maybe one of these weeks when we talk, because it is still a little buggy. I know. But this is the process that Apple has refined and honed. I mean, they do this every year. And by beta 2 or 3, probably, I mean, not everybody, right? Just somebody like me, like I know what I'm doing, in the sense that if there's bugs, I can handle that kind of thing. But for most people, I think they just need to wait until probably we're going to see this in September, right? I mean, that's when we normally guess that maybe Apple will do it. But
September, maybe October. I would love to install the beta and try out all the fancy new features too, Brett. But the thing is, I use my iPad
you rely on
work
it
every day, all day long, and I can't have it. Beta software will just typically just crash and you just restart, and it's fine if you're just playing around with stuff. But the things that I'm using to get work done, I can't have it crash in the middle of a deposition or a court hearing or something. So
we will be talking more. I know. Good, you do that. Let me be the guinea pig. We'll continue to talk, I'm sure, about iOS 16 and iPadOS 16. But I just thought that was great, and that's exactly what I honed in on as well, was the Stage Manager. Thank you for linking
the second half of this review, by the way, I should have said was iOS 16. The big feature there, of course, is the new lock screen, and he just says it works great. The more that I read about the new lock screen, I never really thought of my lock screen as an interesting part of my iPhone, but every review that I've read said this is really revolutionary, and it makes it so useful.
I can't wait.
You can swap pictures in and out, the customization options, the use of complications on it, like you have on an Apple Watch. Everything says it really, really works. So I'm very excited about this.
Now this, I'm not going to do the public beta. Like I just kind of what we were talking about. I feel my iPhone is so personal and so critical to everything that I do, personal and work, that I'm not going to do the beta. But man, I mean, just that's the big thing I know that we're looking for on the iPhone. Speaking of iPhones, another thing that you link to, most people know when you go and buy an iPhone today, at least the 13, there is the iPhone 13, the iPhone 13 Pro, and the iPhone 13 Mini. Is that right?
The iPhone 13 Pro Max. So you got lots of different sizes there.
So there are 4 different sizes of the iPhone 13 that you can purchase. And you and I always talk about the Pro version. I think most people that I know go with the Pro. Some I see the Max. But if you're going to get an iPhone, a lot of times I know people will go to the Pro or the Max, unless maybe it's like a family member, a kid, something like that. But this was so interesting. You linked to Jason Snell at Macworld talking about his love for the iPhone Mini. And I think he even said, like, even if the iPhone 14 Mini doesn't come out, he's going to stick with the iPhone 13 Mini. I don't hear a lot of people talking about the Mini, but he likes it.
He likes it. And, the rumor is that Apple doesn't sell a lot of the minis. And the rumor is that they're not going to come out with a mini for the 14. Not that they'll never do it again, but that they'll probably wait a couple of years before they bring it out again. And Jason just reminds folks that it's so nice to have an iPhone that's so small and in your hand. The iPhone mini, the iPhone 13 mini size is about the same size as the iPhone 5, if you remember that, back for people that have been using the iPhone for a long time. And I got to tell you, the iPhone 5 was a nice size iPhone in your hand. It really felt good. And in fact, the mini is better than the 5 for a million reasons, but one of which is that the old iPhone 5, of course, had the button at the bottom taking up some of the screen space, whereas the iPhone 13 mini, because it uses Face ID, the entire screen is the screen, like most modern iPhones. So it's the nice compact size of the iPhone 5 but a
Right.
little bit more screen space because of Face ID. And he says that it's just the perfect combination. And I don't consider my 13 too big in my hand because I've gotten used to it. But the times that I go back, and I went back because I still had an old iPhone 5 and was just feeling it in my hand at home, it does feel nice. You know, it really does. It's easier to hold. It's easier to use. Now, would I want to give up having the larger screen size? Probably not.
I don't think
Although I myself have never gotten the Max because I think that's too big. So everyone has to make their own decision as to what size is best for them. And when Jason says he prefers the Mini, obviously that's a personal decision.
He knows what he's talking about.
I understand where he's coming from. It is a nice size.
I feel like if I were to go to the Apple store and put it in my hand, my thought is like, oh, that's so cute. It's almost, the same thing as I would pick up a little puppy or something, like, oh, that's so cute in my hand. But I remember, it's all perspective, right? I remember when we got the iPhone 5 that we were overjoyed with even that size of it, right? And that was a great size. And it's just amazing if you compare it. We've seen some of these pictures where people compare the size and how it's grown and reduced, I guess, and grown over the years with the iPhones. And it just seems like Apple is just not afraid to maybe come out with different sizes and see what it's going to be like. And anyway, it's just great. This was a good story. I don't think the Mini gets enough love.
I don't know why. Nice to get a reminder that
I wouldn't want to, but I thought that was great. I'm so glad that you did that. Speaking of the iPhone again, this is something that I just want to say thank you. Finally, I have been waiting for YouTube to do picture-in-picture on my iPhone for so long. I don't know why it's such a big deal to me, but I mean, to me, YouTube is like a daily thing. I'm always going on YouTube for one thing or another, either for entertainment or for education, or just because I follow some folks, and I always hate it that like I can't just have the video continue to roll while I go do something else, check email or something else like that. Well, finally now, I mean, there's been reasons, and this has been a huge kerfuffle for a long time that people have been yelling at YouTube that they need to handle this. And of course, all of you Android users out there, you've had this for a long time already. But finally now, the YouTube app will do picture-in-picture on the iPhone. And I am loving it.
Yeah. I don't use this a lot because I, tend to watch video on my iPad with its larger screen more than the iPhone. And because it's a smaller screen, when you're doing picture in picture, that video is pretty small. But I have done it from time to time where I've had like a video that I'm sort of half watching in the background or something like that on my iPhone. And it really does work. It's surprising that having a little picture in picture video, I'm not going to use it for something that you're leaning forward and watching, like, a movie, but for like a YouTube video, which, often is just sort of like a how-to or something in the background, it really makes sense. And so I'm glad to see YouTube do this. They, like you say, they could have done this a long time ago. They've done it for Android. I'm glad that they're going to be doing it.
And premium YouTube users had this, but
and there were hacks that you could get it to work too in the past.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just got to tell you quickly, Jeff, the other thing that is so interesting to me on this, and because I tried this, and you might want to make sure you've got your YouTube app updated because they're kind of rolling this out as it goes. But what's interesting about it on my iPhone, though, is that you just start playing a YouTube video in the YouTube app. And then what I do is I just swipe up. And magically then that YouTube video will go in its own little picture-in-picture window.
Cool. Yeah.
You can move that around. It's almost like multitasking on the iPhone.
Yeah.
And just the way that it works is so lovely. But you can move that picture like to the bottom corner, to the top corner. You can also do pinch to zoom. So you can make the video while it's playing picture in picture a little bigger. You can make it as big as like it'll take up like, the bottom third of your screen or whatever, if you want it to go all of that. Or you can make it very small so it only takes up like a tiny corner of that. And just the way that it works to me gives me a little bit of encouragement that maybe we would see some potential additional multitasking components within the iPhone. Anyway, that got me excited, just the way that it's a lovely integration, and I'm just glad to see that finally it works as well as it does. It's been a long time coming, but it's good.
Yeah, you're right. It may inspire even more multitasking on the iPhone. That's interesting. I agree with you.
Your last little video, which you always include, was fantastic. I loved this. It is called Hard Knocks. And I'll go ahead and I won't play the whole thing here, but this is for the Apple Watch, and this is fantastic. Thanks for linking to it.
It's a fun video because it shows the Apple Watch Series 7 getting a whole lot of abuse in some very well done videography, action shots. But I will tell you, so first of all, the video is fun to watch. I encourage it. Full stop.
Yes.
Now, what I did not put in my post today, but it just shows that great minds think alike, is, and I see in the show notes, what did you link to? Because this is what I was thinking about too.
The rumor
exactly.
that might be coming out, which I have to tell you, I'm both excited and nervous, mostly from a pocketbook perspective.
Yeah, the rumor is that Apple is on the brink of releasing a different type of Apple Watch that some people say might be called the Apple Watch Pro, who knows, but something that would be more durable, maybe use some sort of a special, coating or special glass or some sort of special titanium or something like that to make it even more durable, so that if you're like riding bikes across country up mountains and you fall down and hit a rock, it's going to be even more less likely to break and stuff like that. That'll be interesting to see if Apple does that. But because the rumors of this new Apple Watch have been so strong, I was surprised to see the commercial just recently, because I'm like, why is Apple gonna advertise the durability of its current model if it actually is planning in a few months to release an even more durable model? So does the existence of this video mean that the rumors are wrong and that Apple's not going to announce this new product? Or is Apple maybe just wants people to think about about Apple Watch durability?
That's what I thought.
In a few months, they'll say, hey, you know how you're thinking about durability? We're going to show you real durability.
Exactly.
Now. So
that was the angle I thought.
Marketing. I guess you could go either way on it. So it's a fun video to watch, but it's also a fun video because I just can't help but think about these rumors. And again, I don't think that this type of an Apple Watch would be for me, but who knows what features it would have.
But it's cool.
Really interesting.
Well, so this is Mark Gurman, and who writes for Bloomberg now, and he is one of the most well-known rumor mongers. Is that a good? I mean that in a positive way. Sources, but he's got good sources. But they're talking about. He called it the Apple's Extreme Sports Edition, I think is the phrase that he used on this. Which, it's going to be bigger. Like you just said, it's going to be so much more rugged. And it might even be close to like $1,000. I mean, we're talking, I know there's some in the world of watches, which I don't know very much of, but that could be a
longer
drop in the
battery
bucket
life too, which is something that Garmin's have. Longer battery life is the rumor.
And the thing is, when I was watching the video and I was thinking about this past week of this Mark Gurman talking about this Extreme Sports Edition, the thing is, Jeff, you and I continue to talk about this. I'm using and relying more and more on my watch for so many things. Like, I want a bigger screen. I want, it to have more sensors. I want it to be able to play the video, even like we've talked about. Like, there's so much more that I just see that I am relying on this from a health perspective, from an entertainment perspective, from a sports perspective, from a staying in shape perspective. I mean, all of that. And I don't know, I would be so darn tempted to lay out the cash for something like this, even though, I am not the extreme sports guy, but I do enough that anyway, this was tempting. And so I'm excited about you linking to that video, because that is a fun video. And that's exactly the angle I thought, Jeff, is that, hey, Apple just wants you to start thinking about this. Because, like, just exactly what you said, you ain't seen nothing yet. Like, we gave you the Apple Watch 7 now, and it can take a beating from a tennis ball and from a fall. But wait till we, show you something else that we got. But,
battery life is an important one, too, because, I would tell you just this week, today's Friday, 2 days this week, I have been working on my computer at night. Now, admittedly, it was the end of the day. It was 11 o'clock at night. But my Apple Watch is telling me that it's about to die. Now, it still had 10% left. And to be fair, I was going to bed about an hour later. 10% would have gotten me through that last hour. But I don't like my Apple Watch telling me that now it's starting to run out of power. Do I want to go in power savings mode? The Apple Watch, and I have to admit, when I wasn't seeing these warnings when I got the Series 7, a year ago now, right? So I just wonder if, 10 months later, maybe the battery is just not quite as strong as it used to be. And that's why. But I really would love it. I mean, my hope is that if Apple can extend the battery life for this more rugged model, now that's probably by making it bigger. I hope they continue to push the battery life, because the Apple Watch has enough battery power, but if it just had a little bit more, that would be great, because I don't want to have to go buy an Apple MagSafe battery attachment for my iPhone. For my Apple Watch, rather, to stick it in the back and give it that extra power. But if my watch could just have another 2 hours a day, that would be enough to really always cover me. So
I'm gonna go for the Apple sleeve. Like I just want like half a sleeve, right? Because then that'll be a big screen. It'll just be like take up half my arm, and I would fall for it. I would do it in a heartbeat. As like bigger battery, everything. All right, in the know. Let's go back to the iPad for my quick tip on this, which I have to tell you, I'm still trying to get used to this, and I've been using it for several months now. I got my new iPad 12.9 iPad Pro, and when I go into Safari, which I'm using all the time, there was an option, and I think it's been since iPadOS 15, that you can go in Safari, and at the top, I usually have several tabs that are open, right? At the very top of the screen, I have the URL bar up there, so it tells me what site that I'm on. And then underneath there, I like to see all the tabs so that I can jump back and forth between any tabs that I have open. Well, if you go into the settings of your iPad and you go down to find Safari in settings, there is an option here where you can change the layout of the tabs. What I just described, the layout in my Safari, is separate tab bar. That's what they call it there.
That's the traditional one.
That's the traditional one. So you have your URL bar at the top, and then under there is the tab. But the other option that they have in this settings is called compact tab bar. And I saw that and I'm like, wait, why not? I'm going to try that. And I love it, number one, because what it does is that it takes up way less space. Because in other words, it takes away the top URL bar and it just shoves all the tabs up to the very top. So now what you're doing, instead of having a separate URL bar or a box to type in your URL, in separate tabs, you now just have that one line at the top, and now your tabs are where you would type in whatever URL that you wanted to visit, CNN.com or whatever it may be. Now, when you do that, this also then the tabs at the top sort of take on the color of whatever site that you're seeing. Some people don't like that, and I got to tell you, it still weirds me out a little bit sometimes, just because I don't think I'm used to it. But I keep telling myself, do I want to go back? But I have to tell you, Jeff, if I go back now to the separate tab bar, I just find it takes up way too much room. I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't deal with this. It doesn't look efficient to me. So I have continued to stay on that compact tab bar. I prefer it now, but I got to tell you, I don't know if it's just because, old habits die hard. It still requires me to kind of get used to it. Or sometimes I'm like, wait, where do I type? Like, where'd that bar go? That kind of a thing. So anyway, try it yourself. It doesn't close any of the tabs or anything. So you can freely switch back and forth between the separate tab bar and the compact tab bar, but just try that for your Safari on your iPad and see what works best for you.
I'm really glad that you mentioned this tip today, because when this feature came out, I tried it for a hot minute and said, this is bizarre. And I went back to the old way, and I haven't thought about it since. And about a half hour before we started recording today, I saw that you were going to mention this, and I just switched it again, and it still looks strange. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but I gotta tell you, that extra space, like an extra line of space, I'm going to stick with it, because I suspect that this is one of those features that if I just get over the hump of it being bizarre and I get used to it, it actually is better. So I'm going to try. I'm committing myself to try this for a week or two and see what I think, because I had sort of forgotten that this feature was even there. And maybe it's better. I need to think about it.
That's what they should call it. They should call it the old way and the bizarre way. It's like you can check which one. Yeah, try it, because I'd be interested just to see what you think. Because again, I haven't gone back. I can't go back now. The old way just looks too busy. I don't know. It's too much space. Yeah. But I still like just exactly what you said. It still looks a little weird, and sometimes I get a little weirded out. But good. I'm glad you're trying that too. Yeah.
So here's my tip. We started off today talking about AirTags, and I'm going to finish up with AirTags too.
Good.
So
good.
Before my trip to Italy, one of my AirTags, the one that was on my luggage, I was getting an alert that the battery was almost dead. No problem. It's very simple. You're showing the Apple support page that I can get a brand new CR2032 lithium battery. Take out the old one, put the new one in. I'm good to go. Right. So I figured I was all set. And so our plane to Italy landed in Milan, and my AirTag correctly said that my luggage was in Milan. And then even today, if I look at my iPhone, it still says that my luggage is in Milan. And what's going on? And the reason for that is that I forgot something, and I'm so embarrassed, Brett. This was just between you and me. Nobody else listened. I actually posted about this on iPhone JD a year ago, that some CR2032 batteries that you buy have this coating on it. It's this Bitterant coating, so that because these things are small, like almost like a candy, like little kids or babies might pick them up and put them in the mouth.
Like a Necco wafer is what
exactly.
It looks like.
And so this coating makes it taste like a sour apple or something like that, so that the idea is that the child would like it would stick it out, because you don't want to swallow a lithium ion battery. That would obviously be bad.
That wouldn't be good.
Many of like the one that you're showing right now, this is actually what I purchased on Amazon before I left. And I mean, it says right there on the package, child secure and bitter coating. I didn't even notice. I forgot about it. I bought them. And the thing is, I put it in the AirTag, and it did sort of work a little bit, but then it didn't really work that well. And so here's the telltale thing. I have since purchased replacement ones that I just picked up at Walgreens, which don't have the coating on it. And here's my tip. In fact, I think I might be sure write about this in iPhone JD next week, that when I put when I put this one with the bitter coating on it in the AirTag, it didn't make any noise. I just put it in there and I closed it up and I thought it was fine. But if you look at the Apple support documentation, they tell you that what should happen is as soon as you put the battery in, even before you put the back on the AirTag, it goes ding or some sort of sound. And when I bought the one that did not have the coating on it, as soon as I put it in, I heard the sound. And that was so in other words, the bitter coating is reducing the connection between the AirTag and the battery.
Right here, they post that
it's
right
inconsistent. And Apple tells you in small print on its page, and I forgot about it. And so that's my tip, is that AirTags, they need a new battery after about a year and a half or something like that. Of the 4 that I've had since the first day that they came out, I think I've now replaced the battery in only 2 of them. 2 of them I haven't done so yet, but eventually I will. But that's my tip, is make sure, pay attention when you buy the batteries, because they cost about the same either way. Make sure that you don't get the one that's got the child-proof coating on it, because it doesn't work with AirTags.
Yeah, this one you linked to, I even like it. It's got a picture of a little kid with his tongue sticking out. Bitter taste.
That's also what my face looked like when I realized that my AirTag wasn't working, because I put the wrong battery in it.
You do need to post about this, because I don't think I was aware about this until you were talking about it, and it makes so much sense, especially if you've got young kids or maybe even pets that you don't want, because these literally look like those little Necco wafers or something similar to that. But you can get, there's many others that you can find around, any hundreds on Amazon, of course, but any kind of a drugstore or something like that as well. But you want to get the Bitterant coating, but they're not going to work in the AirTag. So you're saying make sure it's not Bitterant coating for that. Wow. Okay. That's a good tip. I mean, you want to do the right thing. Yeah. I don't want kids to eat it, but in this case with AirTags, don't nibble on the AirTag, kids. It's like,
and what makes it work, Brett, is as I started off by saying, we had to leave Italy early because my kids got COVID. But when I look at my phone, it's as if my luggage is still enjoying Italy. So it's like, that just rubs it in.
You're there in spirit. You're still there in spirit.
Still there
exactly.
In spirit.
Well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you made it back. I'm glad that everybody is okay in the Richardson household. Yes, fantastic. So good talking with you again, Jeff. And hopefully all things, no one swallows a 2032 battery. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Brett. Bye-bye, everybody.